With the new round of mass demonetization and the next ad apocalypse just beginning, the plan was to make a video talking about all of this and look back at what has led us to here. I was also going to address how some creators are handling the situation as well. The thing is, all people do out here is talk. Creators whine, complain, bitch, piss, moan, and cry about what is happening while doing nothing about it. Some of them have just admitted defeat and said there's nothing that can be done. Others are looking to appeal to the authority of politicians and governments, or anyone else they think might be able to do something. This shit really pisses me off seeing it too. None of these people want to help themselves. They are too fucking lazy and scared to do anything to save their own asses. They just want to keep their heads down and do their thing even while everything is burning down around them. They want the internet to go back to the way it was prior to Silicon Valley, the legacy media, Democrats, far left and leftist, globalist, and establishment faux conservatives spurging out over Brexit in the 2016 presidential election. Well, I hate to break it to each and every single one of them, but that isn't just going to happen. No government or politician is going to just step in and make things all better. These companies are not all of a sudden going to have a heart and start feeling bad about what they are doing. The far left and leftists, they get off on the power they have over the lives and livelihoods of people and want more of it. The legacy media, we are their competition and they want us all gone, even if we pushed the same bullshit, propaganda, and lies that they do. The Democrats have been in riding the short bus in full retarded mode since their for-sale globalist girl Hillary lost to Trump. They have labeled average Americans who do not agree with them as Russians, Russian bots, Nazis, white supremacists, racists, homophobes, sexists, along with anything else they think is a bad name and ends in ist to call someone. The globalists, with Brexit, Trump getting elected and not being their man, the political shift in Italy more and more conservative, Poland and Hungary telling the EU to go fuck themselves and the like. I am sure each and every single one of them wish we would all just die already. That is because all of us who make content, even remotely related to politics or current events, that have talked about and promoted any of these things, have helped to make them happen. We're on our own, people. There is no cavalry coming over the hill. No one is going to save us. No one is going to fight this battle for us. We don't have any backup. It is just us and no one else here. So what are you going to do? Are you just going to sit there and watch them take down other creators one by one until you hear their footsteps coming up behind you, the pulling of a trigger, and then feel the barrel pressed to the back of your head? Or are you going to put up a fight? I can tell you right now, me personally, I'm not going down without a fight. Like in real life, out here, I am going out the way I came in, kicking, screaming, arm swinging, and covered in someone else's blood. You come at me, you better kill me, whether it's my actual body or my digital presence, depending on where you are doing it. Because I will keep coming at you until I do. I was shadow banned and then banned from Twitter before it was trendy. YouTube has been suppressing my channel and videos for something like 2 years now. I've caught them in the act. Even did a video on it a while ago. Something like 2 weeks ago, I caught them taking views from me to where my daily count for them on Social Blade was in the negative by 39. Facebook, up until a couple months ago when they were sweating some things, they were suppressing the shit out of my page there. Then all of a sudden I got an influx of well over 400 friends. Then they turned off the spigot. From what it looks like to me, they didn't want my page to stick out as being one of the ones they were suppressing. Even with all this, I'm still fucking here. I'm not going anywhere either. That is, unless they murder my digital presence everywhere I've spread it. One reason why I'm still here is because, unlike a lot of other people, I realize we are literally fighting a war. We aren't at the point of pulling out the guns, tanks, planes, bombs, missiles, and the like just yet. But it is a war nonetheless. When a war shows up at your front door, you have two choices. You take up arms and join the fight, or you tuck your tail between your legs and run like a scared little bitch while hoping it doesn't follow you. Because if you just sit there, you're as good as dead. Right now, this is our shit or get off the pot moment. It's time to make a choice. We need to get as many people as we possibly can involved in this fight. We also need to be working together towards the same end goal. Any differences in opinion, any beefs or bullshit between people, none of that will matter if we all get depersoned from the internet, and we all just need to understand that. I personally think Sargon of Akkad is a complete and total scumbag git who is high on his own farts and not as smart as he thinks he is, and I wouldn't turn my back on him. But looking at what we are going up against, I would make a deal with the devil in fighting it. Making one with the Soy Father, I have no problem with if he isn't going to be a detriment to the fight. It is going to come down to a numbers game for us and where we have our people strategically placed on the battlefield. We need more than just content creators and our subscribers making up the ranks. We are also going to need people from alt tech and free and open source software as well, not to mention members of the alternative media too. People from the legal profession would help in having to fight this war. There are other groups as well that would help to have on our side here. There is no quick endgame solution that leads to us winning this war. Right now, we don't even remotely have a solution to anything, never mind any sort of battle plan whatsoever. With the caliber of some of the YouTube academics, at this point that is probably a good thing, because 2 chimpanzees with their brains rotted by syphilis would probably come up with a far better solution than they ever could. One person is not going to come up with a solution for how to fight this war. No one should be expected to. The way we are going to come up with a solution is by individuals figuring out the pieces of it and assembling them like a puzzle. This is actually how any modern battle plan is made. If we were to do this and I was contributing to the solution for how to fight this war and to the battle plan, this is what I see needs to be done. First off, a conventional war is off the table. What I mean by this is we cannot fight them on their own platforms under their arbitrary rules. These are battlefields they control. If you have any doubts of this, I refer you to what YouTube is currently doing to content creators. We will lose if we do it. We have to treat this war like a war of attrition and fight it using guerrilla warfare tactics. We have to take our weaknesses and turn them into strengths. This is while doing the same with theirs and turning them to our advantage. Because of how we are all spread out over and connected by the internet, we have mobility and speed. Their sheer size makes them slow and hard for them to quickly react and adapt to any given situation. This is something we can definitely use to our advantage. In using guerrilla warfare tactics, it doesn't mean we can't fight them on their own platforms. All I said was, we couldn't fight a conventional war on them by their rules. There is a difference between the two. In a conventional war on their platforms, you are weaponizing your own digital presence and making it a target. In a guerrilla war, you use the tools they give you to create new digital presences and use them to wage surgical strikes and other attacks from them. As a group, you build them up through things like promotion and then sacrifice them once they have served their purpose, no one being the wiser. Even with being constantly on the move, fighting a guerrilla war, you still need a base of operations to operate from and stage out of. Alt-Tech has provided us with places to do that from. Sites like Minds and Gab are perfect for this. They put us out of the reach of Silicon Valley and help to keep prying eyes off what we are doing. The private conversations we have one-on-one or in groups on them, they have absolutely no way of knowing what we are talking about in them on these platforms. BitChute is a benefit to us as well. It is far more than just a site you can set up to pull your content from YouTube and have it back it up there as a mirror, which sadly is exactly how a lot of content creators treat it. It has a growing user base and is a place where you are not subject to YouTube's arbitrary rules. It is a place that can be used to keep the content alive that is used in attacking Silicon Valley on their platforms. It definitely does have a purpose in this war. Besides that, it will probably be where a lot of us end up at some point due to a purge of YouTube and it being the best viable alternative to it, minus streaming. There are people like Mr. Medicare, Nick Ricada, and others who say all tech sites are going to be the places where they sequester all of us away from the rest of the public as we are removed from Silicon Valley platforms. Medicare believes they are going to do it until they have just the normies and those ideologically aligned with what they want left so they can use it to control the conversation and through it our society, such as with the upcoming 2020 presidential election. Now I do agree the plan is probably to try to use sites like Gab, BitChute, and Minds as places to corral us and sequester us away from others. That is because it makes sense for them to do that, especially with how the left has tried to kill both Gab and BitChute and have failed so far with their being the cockroaches of tech, which I honestly mean in a good way. After all, if they can't kill them, they might as well try to use them to their advantage. Where I disagree with them is on how well this will actually work for Silicon Valley and what effect it will have on controlling conversations and outcomes as a result of their doing it. Both Nick and Medicare believe that the normies aren't going to pay attention or care, or from the sound of things, don't think they will be affected by the left's ramping up of censorship leading into the 2020 election. I see things playing out very differently. With the whole Carlos Maza situation and his spurging out over Steven Crowder and wanting him deplatformed, YouTube has basically come out and admitted that their rules are more fluid than a leftist's gender and completely arbitrary. This is while they are now using this new application of them to demonetize and purge content creators under the very worn and thin cover of their being white supremacists and Nazis. With rules like how theirs are now, even normies are going to run afoul of them. Twitter is already like this with its rules. Normies are nailed by their blue-haired brigades all of the time for wrong speak or for triggering leftists with innocent tweets. Normies tend to believe in two genders. You say that on Twitter and it's a suspendable offense. For fuck's sake, Facebook just recently handed over a normie's personal info to a Daily Beast reporter because he uploaded a clip of Nancy Pelosi slightly slowed down, which made the fact she was slurring more apparent. They're doing what they did here isn't like Cambridge Analytica. It is much worse and just the latest line of user privacy abuse by Facebook, which could be one of the many reasons as to why they have been consistently losing users. Silicon Valley is already crossing the line of what they can do before it affects normies or they take notice to it. They are not going to stop doing this, and they are only going to take things even farther than they already have. As we get closer to November in 2020, what they are doing is only going to get worse and worse. As it does, more and more of those normies are going to be looking for alternatives to Facebook, Twitter, and YouTube. At one time, MySpace was Facebook before Facebook was Facebook. What I mean by that is, it was the dominant social media site before Facebook came along and claimed that crown. Minds has the potential to do the same with it. Even with rigged markets, competitors have managed to emerge historically, usually because they find a way into the market those rigging it didn't account for, or they offer something those controlling it did not or could not offer. The point is, it is possible. Now, I like to hope for the best but plan for the worst, and this is a situation where I see the worst happening. All tech can only take us so far. Remember, it's only a piece to the solution. Free and open source software is another piece that we are going to need as part of it. When it comes to technology, operating systems, software, and the internet, it is the future. This is no secret. Silicon Valley has embraced this fact, and we all need to as well. We need to start developing technologies that put us out of the reach of the left, Silicon Valley, leftists, legacy media, and the rest of this ilk. The only way we're going to do this is by getting people in free and open source software on board with this. We need the help of that community in order to make this happen. For example, the creation of a decentralized internet built on top of the existing one we already have that turns every smartphone, tablet, computer, along with any other connected device into its infrastructure would completely take Silicon Valley out of the equation. It would render them completely powerless. There would be nothing they could do about it because of it being done under open source. They could not stop it from happening. Free and open source software developers are people who have had the far left and leftists shit all over them, and one of the things they love in the name of identity politics, equality of outcome, and making them pay for being men, especially white men, who succeeded in a meritocracy while the leftists didn't. They watched someone very respected and considered one of the driving forces of free and open source software get taken down by a tranny and a bull dyke who couldn't succeed in the community on their programming abilities. The tranny was a mediocre programmer at best as a man, and is a worse one as a man in drag, which could be why he is using his code of conduct with the leftists to take over everything within free and open source software, which happens to run just almost everything on the internet. You give these people something to work with and tell them it will be used to stick it to the far left and leftists, along with everyone else trying to destroy the things we love about the internet and are doing out here, more than a few of them will sign up. With how Linus Torvalds, the creator of the Linux kernel, was taken down, and with what has resulted since, I am sure of it. From there, we are going to need others who are in the alternative media on our side. It does not matter what platforms they are on, or the type of content they produce. Eventually, they are going to become targets themselves. They have to know this too. They can amplify our reach on getting more people involved in the fight for free speech on the internet. We can do the same for them. On top of this, with being on different platforms, they are going to be able to help get what is going on out here to a much wider audience. This is something that would be mutually beneficial for both of us in this fight. With the waves we would make, members of the legal profession could really come in handy in all honesty. Not only for our protection, but also to help in waging the war against these people. For at least some of us, there has to be some sort of legal action that can be taken. Plus, they are probably going to be good people to refer to when trying to paint any given situation we take advantage of in a way that best benefits us. We are going to need this because we're going to get dirty in fighting this war. In saying that, I'm not talking about us getting dirty by doing anything illegal. Far from it. The very fact that we are fighting them means we are going to have to climb into the muck with them while they are flinging it at us. Anything they can pin on us, they are going to try to do just that with. If we get caught neck deep in the muck with them, they are going to have their PR people and lawyers trying to paint their being in it in the best light for them. Without having anyone to do that for us, we'll be screwed. This now takes us to what I consider as one of the more important pieces of the solution and war plan in fighting for the internet. It is also what I think is one of the best of them too. We open up the gates of hell and set forth upon them the shitposters, the trolls, the autistics and internet detectives of the message boards and sites like Kiwi Farms, along with others like them on any and all who had anything to do with this. We let them go boondock saints on their lives and have them do a deep dive into and dissect them, digging up any and all dirt on them and let them have their fun.
Exactly What do you intend to do?
Every last motherfucker that had anything to do with it.
They declared war on us. They decided that they were going to try to take us out. They're the ones that made it clear they aren't going to follow the Geneva Convention, so to speak, in regards to engagements. So why should we? You don't win wars by playing nice. You win them by being stronger, meaner, and willing to show your enemy that you can and will inflict more damage and harm on them than it is worth for them to endure. We have to show them that we are willing to do this, and these are the people best suited for it. And I have a hypothetical example of something that would do just that to give you an idea of what I am talking about. Ask yourself, what if there was an old VHS tape of Susan Wojcicki floating around somewhere of her having an Eiffel Tower being run on her at a frat party? I don't know if there is, but I sure as shit would like to find out with what is going on right now. I am willing to bet with something like that, these are the people to find out. If there was one, that is something that would inflict the type of damage that would let her know she is fucking with the wrong people. It would let others involved in the censorship know that too. In the case of Carlos Maza, with what has been found by these people so far, which is just scratching the surface I am sure, there could be some really damning and damaging things that he does not want dragged out into the light of day. Allegedly, his husband and himself have an open marriage, are having unprotected orgies, are sleeping around, and other things we do not want to know about him under other circumstances. I am seriously waiting for them to find and pull furries, cubs, or just plain kid diddling out of this guy's repertoire of degeneracy. I mean that too. To me, he just looks like the type of person who would have something like that as a skeleton in his closet, which my mentioning a closet has nothing to do with his being gay. I want to make that clear with how he's a psychotic little prick. I also want to make it clear that my mentioning him and little prick in the same sentence has nothing to do with his having one and there being a picture of it circulating around of it. Not having Twitter, I haven't seen it, but have heard about it. The shitposters, trolls, and everyone else in these groups all have something to lose with the ratcheting up of censorship. They know this too, which is one reason why we are seeing them digging into his online presence and digital past like they are. Don't get me wrong, I'm sure they are doing it for the laughs as well. These aren't stupid people with what they are doing. These are the type of people we need on our side and to be coordinating with. If I was contributing to a solution and a battle plan, these are the type of people I would put on the front lines doing what they do best, inflicting the most damage possible using the things in people's lives they should keep in mind when thinking about starting shit with others. Then there are those things that everyone can do regardless of their role in fighting the war. They are pieces of the solution that can and do work, which is probably why the left uses them as much as they do. What we need to do is follow the money and go after it. Maza, YouTube, the legacy and new media, along with far left and leftists, always want to go after the money of content creators. They're doing it. It makes going after their money fair game as well. They are the ones who brought things there. We didn't. The retards of Media Matters and 30 leftists spurging out on Twitter is usually all it takes to get advertisers and parent companies to start shitting themselves and freaking out. They apply their pressure and it's almost a certainty these companies will end up caving. They always seem to do it. I can't think of one company off the top of my head that ignored or told them to get bent. There is a hell of a lot more of us than there is them. Unlike the people at Media Matters or the leftists, I'm going to hazard a guess and say that more than a few of us are consumers of these companies' goods and services. That is something we have to our advantage. We have the ability to follow through with our threats of financial boycotts and should do so, which is something they cannot do. More than a few companies have invested in Vox. Their doing so hasn't been the positive return affair they had hoped for. They have more than lost their investments. I am sure it has been a loss leader for each and every single one of them. That being the case, I am sure its investors are looking at Vox as more trouble than it is worth. One of these investors is NBC Universal. Comcast owns NBC Universal, which has invested $200 million into Vox. You apply enough pressure to one or both of these companies, I'm thinking Comcast more so myself, and they will react. The reason why I say more so Comcast is because they are not micromanaging NBC Universal. They want the people they have in charge there to run the show and not have to deal with them or anything they are doing. They especially do not want to have to deal with and clean up the issues they have caused or have allowed to happen, such as a psychotic anchor baby gay Mexican that is spurging out on Twitter and creating a shit show because some guy destroys his shitty Marxist leftist content, for example. There are two ways to pressure Comcast financially and both need to be applied. The first one is cutting the cable with them, while making it crystal clear it was Carlos Maza and the shit he is pulling over at Vox that has led to it. It also needs to be made clear at that time, with there being the parent company of NBC Universal and its investment in Vox, they are allowing Maza to do what he is doing without any oversight, and it makes them look just as responsible for his actions and their results. If it is a content creator doing this, they should also let them know they are having to economize with Maz's spurgery and destroying their livelihood online. His name needs to be worked into the interaction as much as possible. Enough people do this and they are going to be looking into what is going on and start shitting themselves. In their investigating, they are going to see Carlos Maza, Vox, NBC Universal, YouTube, the destruction of livelihoods, and a $200 million investment coming up over and over and over. Anyone there with a half a brain at Comcast is going to take a look at this and realize that what they are looking at is not only potentially millions of dollars in lost income, but also a PR nightmare for them. On the note of monetary losses, for a company that is responsible to shareholders, it never looks good. But neither do scandals either. The combination of the two is a great motivator. I tried looking online for the average Comcast monthly bill. The only thing I could find was from 2017 and was on a cord-cutting site. What it stated fell in line with what I figured would be the average today at around $150 a month, which is substantially less than my cable bill, mind you. At that average, if just 1,000 people were to cancel Comcast, that's $150,000 a month. 10,000 do it, it's $1.5 million a month. Dare I say 100,000 do it. We are talking $15 million a month. It really starts to add up. Just imagine how much something like this would cost them over a year or two. They are going to sit up and take notice to this. But if pressure like this wasn't enough for them, that is why you go after their advertisers too. Cable companies sell advertising slots to national, regional, and local businesses that they place over the advertising of the networks they package to customers. Comcast is no different. Targeting these advertisers and informing them of the situation while explaining that by advertising on Comcast, they are giving the appearance they condone the actions of Maza will have an effect. Also, dropping in how Maza is a Marxist who is condoned and call for the violence against Trump supporters, which has led to it, and they are going to do something in response. When it comes to local businesses, they understand what it is to try to make a living. Put the spin on it of how this has destroyed the ability of large numbers of independent content creators to do just that. They will understand something like this and are overwhelmingly going to be sympathetic to the situation. Because they will be. We don't need to and shouldn't pressure them like they are some faceless corporation. All we need to do is just lay everything on the table and be honest with them. Comcast starts seeing they are taking a financial hit with advertising, besides the one from people canceling because of Maza, his actions, and NBC Universal just sitting there allowing it to happen. They will have to do something. They won't have a choice not to. If we were to drive things to that point, NBC Universal is fucked, Vox is fucked, and without a doubt, Maza is beyond fucked. We are not talking in a way remotely like how he likes to get beyond fucked in his gay orgies either. They will have no choice but to fire his ass, and he will not be able to hide behind the gay Latino of color bullshit he spews either. Most likely with his firing, they would give him the Godfather treatment and make an offer he cannot refuse. One that most likely would be one of, you go away quietly, lay low for a while, keep your mouth shut, and don't cause any problems, or we will destroy you. Then they would do what any large corporation does, try to make everything go away as quietly as possible with as little attention on it as possible. But we shouldn't stop there when it comes to targeting advertisers and companies. Why should Comcast have all the fun? Shouldn't NBC Universal and Vox get to join in on all of it? I believe they definitely should as well. With NBC Universal, with all of their broadcast stations and cable networks, just imagine what successfully targeting their advertisers would do to them. Their broadcast stations, the revenue generated is pretty much exclusively from advertising. We do the same thing with them as Comcast, especially with the local businesses, and it will impact their bottom lines at their corporate-owned NBC stations without a doubt. When they are reporting back to corporate, having to explain why advertising revenue is down, and both Maza and Vox keep coming up as to why they can't sell ad slots or sell them for top dollar, NBC Universal is going to have to do something. If they start seeing the same thing happen with their cable networks, there is no way they can ignore it either. Even though NBC Universal is a Comcast company and has to answer to it, it is also a publicly traded company as well, meaning it has to answer to stockholders besides them. Investors are not going to like that NBC Universal allowed for an out-of-control Marxist, leftist, soy boys actions to hurt the bottom line. Because they won't, which is something executives at NBC Universal know, they won't allow it to get to that point. Or to the point where their bosses from Comcast show up to ream their asses out in a way that definitely is not one that Carlos would like for that matter. If done right, both Vox and Maza are fucked by going after Comcast directly with canceling service, along with targeting theirs and NBC Universal's advertisers. Media Matters and 30 Spurg leftists just using Twitter have managed to take down much larger people than Carlos doing this. Which my saying they are larger people has nothing to do with Carlos looking like Tom Hanks in the movie Philadelphia at the whopping 98 pounds he weighs. Even with targeting Comcast and NBC Universal's advertisers, Vox would also have to be targeted as well, which is something that they cannot have happening with their current financial situation. Vox's videos are monetized on YouTube, and we all know that with this latest ad apocalypse, they are free from its effects. This does not mean we cannot create one ourselves specifically targeted at it and Carlos Maza. Enough people contact advertisers that are shown on their videos, especially Carlos's, and they are in the same boat as everyone else. There would be nothing that Vox, Carlos, or YouTube could do about it either. By contacting advertisers directly, we would be essentially cutting them off at the knees with it. All of these things I have discussed here in this video are not the solution to the current censorship we are dealing with online. They are just pieces to it. I am sure others out there with looking at what is going on have pieces of it as well. We need to start working together, coordinate our efforts, and begin to put those pieces together. It is the only way we will survive this. The same is true with the internet as we know it. We cannot be giving up and admitting defeat without a fight. We can't be appealing to the authority of politicians hoping they will do something to save the day. We have to fight back. A war was declared on us. We didn't ask for it to happen. We had no choice. But we have a choice now. We can let a bunch of social rejects and outcasts who are literally the fringes of society, such as Maza is, working with Silicon Valley, Democrats, and left to beat us down out here, or we can stand up to them and bitch slap them for even thinking about it. Personally, I'm for the bitch slapping them myself. If you liked this video, depending on where you are watching it, please give it an upvote or thumbs up. If you want to know when new content of mine hits the internet, don't forget to subscribe to one or more of my social media or video accounts listed here. Also, with YouTube, don't forget to ring that bell. You can find all of my video content on both BitChute and YouTube. This may not be the case with other places I upload to, but I will try to minimize this happening. You are always welcome to interact with me at any of these sites on the list, so feel free to do so. If you have anything you want me to cover in a video, when it comes to news or current events, send it right along to me. I will try to do my best to cover it. As always, thank you for watching.